Hey guys, so we're officially down here in the Baltimore area. Well, Baltimore area. We're actually up on 83, Interstate 83, almost at the Pennsylvania line, but it's close enough to the Baltimore area so that I can do all the paperwork and legal crap I have to do before we can get the hell out of here again. But it's pretty nice up here. It's pretty nice. It's one of those weird things with the United States where we have our cities, and when you're in the cities, when you're in the suburbs, everything's kind of packed on top of everything else. And then you go not too far away, really, and it turns into farmland and forests and the whole nine yards. So up here in the farmland and forests, having a pretty good old time. Basically just waiting to leave this entire area. But I wanted to talk to you guys about an issue that happened yesterday, and a very real issue in the modern world of being a technology professional. Again, I keep trying to beat into your guys' heads. You guys have this idea that, you know, if you get an MCSE, if you get a college degree, if you learn Python or Ruby on Rails, then you're going to be set, then you're going to be making money, and then everybody's going to love you. And one of the things I keep trying to explain to you guys is those are necessary things. Those are the technical skills that you have to have, but beyond that you have to have other basic social and business skills, and if you don't have those basic social or business skills, it doesn't matter what else you have, right? A lot of people have this idea in the technology world where if you are absolutely brilliant, they think about all of these really brilliant technology professionals like Steve Jobs or Bill Gates or whoever else, and the thing is they were so smart that people just simply dealt with them because they were so smart you had to, right? And so they have this idea that if I am a technology professional, if I am good in technology, then people have to deal with my weird quirks. And the reality is if you are in fact as good as Bill Gates, that is true. I highly doubt most of you are as good as Bill Gates, right? If you are watching my videos, you're probably not at the level of Bill Gates. And so the problem is people have this attitude, they go into business situations with a certain mindset, and then they completely and utterly fail because, again, even Ruby on Rails, yes, you know, or any of these programming languages, C# or whatever else, yes, you get paid well for doing it, yeah, so you're valuable, but you're not valuable enough for people to put up with a lot of horse crap, right? This is something to really think about. So yesterday we had the issue that we're talking about today, and that is punctuality. I don't know what it is, but especially for a lot of people that you would probably say come from the lower classes or trying to move their way up, punctuality is just a complete and utter mess. And I think it's one of the things that really damages most people's career prospects, and they really don't even think about it enough. They don't even really recognize how big of a problem it is. And so if they don't recognize how big of a problem it is, then it's something that they don't fix, right? If you don't recognize a problem, if you don't see something as a problem, well, then it's not a problem to you, and therefore you don't try to solve the problem. The issue is if it's a problem to everybody else, and you don't solve the problem, then it becomes a much larger issue. And that is something that I see with punctuality. Basically, the simple concept of showing up to appointments on time. If you're going to be in the business world, even outside of technology, any kind of business realm, you need to show up to appointments on time. Back when I was in the military, they had the old rule of thumb, show up to all appointments 15 minutes early. And I still remember my drill sergeant saying that you should show up to appointments 15 minutes early for being 15 minutes early. And the reason is because people, especially professionals, schedule their time. Time is a valuable thing. And so if you do not show up on time, that starts to cause problems down the line with their schedule. You start causing problems with their schedule, and then they're not going to want to deal with you. Again, if you are a prominent person, if you are somebody that's going to be writing a $100,000 check, and you're not punctual, they're not going to like you, but you're writing a $100,000 check, so they'll deal with it. If you are a newbie, if you're a new person or a low-level person, and you don't show up to appointments on time, you're basically worthless. Again, I don't really care what your certifications are. I don't care about your degrees are. If you do not have enough respect for the other party that you're meeting to show up to the meeting on time, then you're irrelevant, right? Then again, from a business standpoint, you're basically worthless. Because again, remember what you're getting hired for. You're not getting hired simply to be a Ruby programmer or a C# programmer or to deploy OpenStack or any of that. Your job is to be part of the overall system. So part of the system is, again, the technical skills, and then the other part of the system is things like socializing, things like showing up on time. If there is a project and the project needs to start at 11 o'clock, that means everybody needs to be there at 11 o'clock. Again, especially in the technology world, realize we have to do things a lot of times on schedules. Sadly, one of the reasons why being a technology professional really sucks sometimes is we have to do our work when other people aren't working. But what that means is we can many times have a very, very narrow window. So basically, if you're going to be doing a massive server migration, everybody in the office goes home by 6 o'clock. You have from 6 o'clock at night to, let's say, 7 o'clock the next morning to migrate the servers. You don't have any additional time. Those are the hours you have. It's already going to be hard to do. It's already going to be a pain in the ass to do. You already have a massive number of things that could go wrong. So you need to start at 6 o'clock. Not only do you need to start at 6 o'clock, but realistically, you need everybody to probably get there at about 4:30, start staging everything for the migration so that you are ready to go at 6 o'clock. You only have that 13-hour span of time, period. So if you have people showing up at 6:30, 7 o'clock, it is not simply about them being late. It's not simply about them not having respect for their superiors or for the rest of the team. It is simply you now functionally have less time to do what was already going to be difficult to do in the first place. So punctuality is a huge issue in the tech world. So like with me yesterday, as you guys know, I've been doing this whole Silicon Trailer thing. So Silicon Trailer, I sit down with you guys in the areas that I'm in, and I talk to you guys about the real world of technology. So if you want to know, again, you're thinking about what university to go to, you're thinking about, how to make more money as a consulting company, whatever. I sit down with you, you tell me what you're dealing with, and then I give you what I think. I sit down and I talk with all these old white men. I come back to you and I say, this is what they're saying. This is what my arguments are. Do with it as you will. So yesterday, I was going to be meeting somebody for Silicon Trailer, and one of the issues, again, in life is whenever you do business appointments, sometimes life doesn't go as you expect it to. So things that you think are going to be easy end up being hard. So with me, I set up the appointment for 2 o'clock in downtown, someplace called the Evergreen Cafe in Baltimore. Doesn't matter unless you know where the hell Baltimore is, or if you're around the Baltimore area. But basically, 2 o'clock at the Evergreen Cafe, and the reason was I said 2 o'clock is because in the morning I planned to get my license plates done that I had to do. Then I was going to go into town to do some of the business that I had to do, and it was going to be easy for me to get to. Well, here's the thing, right? Life always throws you a curveball. I go to the MVA, I'm able to get my tags for my truck, but I'm not able to get the tags for the travel trailer, which means I go through the whole process of the MVA, then I have to go back to my old house, go through all the paperwork, find the paperwork I need for the travel trailer, bring it back to the MVA. So basically what was supposed to take this amount of time ends up taking this amount of time. So I get done with that, end up going to Starbucks, grabbing a sandwich, and while I'm at Starbucks, I run into an old buddy of mine who launched a startup company and actually exited from the startup company. So the Baltimore person who created, that I respect, who created a startup company that made a damn bit of sense and even exited from it and made enough money he now can play around with things. And so I'm sitting there and I'm talking with the guy, and it's a really good conversation. This is one of those very valuable conversations. Again, we can talk a lot, and this is where I talk to you guys in life about, it's not about talking to a zillion different people, it's about talking to the right people. And so talking with this guy is one of those valuable people. He pulled an idea out of his ass. He created a video play, it's basically a corporate video platform type thing. He built it, coded it, the whole 9 yards, grew it into a company, actually exited for a real amount of money. So this guy is just a fountain of information. These are the type of people that I like talking to because they have actually done it. They're not like, I just got investment. Who the hell cares? I mean, they've actually exited, gone through the entire thing, actually exited, going on to the next thing. So I'm sitting there talking, great time. And then I look down at my watch and I realize this point is about 1:10, and I have to be at the Evergreen Cafe by 2 o'clock, and I look at it, and it probably takes about 30 minutes to get into town, but you always want to be at appointments at the right time. You don't want either side waiting. You don't want me waiting, and I don't want you waiting. It's respect. I think about it when I was in Thailand for a while, when I was traveling through Thailand. Whenever people talk, whenever they say hello, they say, if you're a guy, you say swati cup, and if you're a girl, you say swati ka. I probably screwed that all up, but you get the idea. And so I was asking somebody what that literally translates into in English, because the idea is that it's hello, but it's not really hello. And the idea, and what the guy told me is, he said in English, what it literally translates out to is to yes, sir. So whenever two Thais meet each other, both people say yes, sir. So it's an idea that both sides from the initial communication are giving the other side respect. And so that's kind of how I think about how business should go. When I am in a real business transaction, when I'm going to go to a real business meeting, it should be swati cup. I should be saying yes, sir. You should be saying yes, sir. Even though I'm Eli, the computer guy, I should show up to appointments on time, right? I'm not going to come, hopefully, not 10 or 15 minutes. You know, your time is valuable. My time is valuable. We have set up this appointment. So, yeah. So basically, it's 1:10. I really want to talk to this guy, but it's like, I've got this appointment I have got to go to. And so I'm driving. And so again, 30 or so minutes to get there. I know that. I leave 40, 50 minutes, so I have more than enough time. I go. There's a huge effing traffic jam. I sit in the huge effing traffic jam. I still drive to Evergreen Cafe, still walk in 5 minutes early. The reason is because I planned for the eventuality that something could happen. Again, when I was in the military, and this is said a lot of places, that you should always be 15 minutes early to any appointment. And the idea is actually not to be 15 minutes early. The idea is that you always know that there's going to be an issue. Right? So if you have to go from point A to point B, and you know it's going to be 30 minutes, you know there's going to be more than 30 minutes of something there. Like maybe you get there and there's no parking spaces, right? Maybe you go to grab your car keys and your wife put the car keys in a different place. Maybe there's a traffic jam. Maybe whatever, right? I don't know if it's going to be the car keys, or I don't know if it's going to be the parking, or I don't know if it's going to be in these issues, but you're almost always going to have an issue. So if you leave with the idea of you're giving yourself an extra 15 minutes, then whatever those issues are, they almost always come out in the wash, right? You know, and hopefully you come a couple of minutes early and it's no big deal. So that's one of the things you need to be thinking about with these, whenever you're doing these business meetings, is that you need to be showing up on time. And in order to show up in time, you need to give yourself the extra amount of time in case anything happens. So, you know, if you have to drive 2 hours to meet me, and this is true, 2 people so far have driven 2.5 hours one way to meet me. So if you're going to drive 2.5 hours, or however long, you have to give yourself enough of a gap. You know, what if you run into rush hour? What if you run into this? What if you run... It is not my responsibility as the other party in this business meeting to worry about your time constraints. It is your responsibility to do that. So think about that. So whenever you're going to be going to any kind of business meeting, give yourself at least 15 minutes extra so that you can come. The reason is because, you know, so I went to, so I left the person that I was dealing with, drove all the way into town, even though I didn't want to drive into town at that point because I had no other business in town that day. Drove all the way into town, drove 40, 50 minutes or whatever into town. So I'm there, I'm waiting at the Evergreen Cafe, waiting for this guy. So again, get my cup of coffee, you know, look through the city paper, the normal stuff, wasting some time, that's how it goes. I see it's like 2:05. I'm like, huh. Right, and at the 5-minute mark, realistically, at the 5-minute mark is just one of those things that happens. Even if you give yourself 15 minutes early, sometimes you need 20 minutes. You know, up to 5 minutes. It could be a difference in clocks. You know, your watch says 2 o'clock and my watch says 2:05. Up to 5 minutes, you don't really worry about it. So I see 5 minutes. It's a bit of a pain in the butt, but hey, whatever. Then it gets to 10 minutes. Once you get to 10 minutes, that's the point when people start to get concerned. You know, did we say this was the right day? Is this the right time? Did I give you the wrong address? Is there some issue here? If you're going to be over 10 minutes late, this is the point where you need to communicate to the other side that you are going to be late. I am stuck in traffic. I got out of an appointment late. Something like that. Because, again, if you're going to be 5 minutes late, yeah, you know what I'm saying, crap happens, or 5 minutes late. But once you start hitting that 10-minute and the 15-minute, you know that is going to happen, most likely before you even get in the car. You know you were supposed to leave for the appointment at 1:30, you're walking out of the house at 1:40. You know you're going to be late. So it's just a simple courtesy to email or to contact the person to say, hey, I am running a little bit late, just so you know, right? So I'm sitting there, you know, it hits 1:10 and 2:10 and 2:15, and then it hits 2:20, right? So I'm sitting there at 2:20. I'm drinking my little crappy ass coffee, and I email the person and say, hey, it's 2:20. The hell's going on, right? And I'm sitting there, don't get a response. Like 2:25 is somewhere after 2:25, so I've been sitting there for over 25 minutes at this point, and like, well, I got better crap to do, right? So I leave. Don't worry about my email, go off to do something else. And then when I leave, and when I get to do another errand, I pull out my phone, and I see this person somewhere between 2:25 to 2:30 literally email me back and said, I'll be another 15 minutes. So this person is telling me that he's going to be 40 minutes late to this appointment. And again, if you're going to be 10 minutes late, you know that's going to happen, right? So you email ahead, you communicate ahead. This person is going to be 40 minutes late to this appointment, and I was the one to have to reach out to them, and when I do reach out to them, I get 15 minutes, right? And so I'm like, yeah, whatever. I don't even bother to respond because he's already wasted my time. And then I get an email from this person at 2:55 saying, I'm here. I'm just looking at this email. I'm like, you are 55 minutes late to this appointment. I don't give a damn where you are, right? And so this is one of those things that you have to be thinking about, you know, as you're going out there, as you're going to try to be a professional, as you're going to be asking for people for help, all these types of things. This is a very simple thing to be punctual for appointments. But I'm going to tell you, as having been a decision maker, and having been an employer, having been somebody that tries to help people out, this is one of the biggest issues that you run into. It's one of the reasons, like when I was in the Baltimore area, I stopped taking a lot of appointments with people, simply because they were so late. They would roll in 20 or 25 minutes late and not really think much about it. And I'm like, I got crap to do, you know? I have other things that I am meeting with you as a form of respect. I am meeting with you kind of like with that whole idea of giving back to the community, and you're coming in 20 or 25 minutes late. If that is not the middle finger to me, what that tells me, when you come in 20 minutes or more late and you haven't communicated with me beforehand, basically what that tells me is you feel that you're more important than me. What that tells me is you are the most important person here, and I am just, you know, that secondary thing. I should wait for you, right? Because you're so impressive. I'm happy for you. I'm glad your mama thinks that, but I don't think that. You are not that. Are you writing a $10,000 check to me? No. I'm not going to wait 20 or 25 minutes, and nobody else is. And one of the issues that you run into, too, is, again, I'm a little more blunt with this kind of thing. Like I say, I emailed this guy once I got back to the travel trailer last night and basically told him to bugger the hell off. But a lot of people aren't as blunt as I am. And what a lot of people don't realize then is you come late to an appointment. You come 20 or 25 minutes late and that person is still there. They may still take that appointment from you. They'll still deal with you for that particular instance. But what we're going to find out in the future is that they're never going to take another appointment again, and they're never really going to explain to you why they're not taking another appointment, right? So you go and you're 20 minutes late to this appointment, and you think you're having a good thing, and you're like, wow, this is somebody I can come back to in the future. And then you email them in the future, and you never really understand why it seems like all your emails go to the spam bin. And the reason is because they're all going to the spam bin. Because you proved in that instance that to you are the most important person in that relationship, and then why are other people going to deal with you, right? And this is a really, really big major issue. Like I say, I see, especially in Baltimore, when you see people moving from lower classes to upper classes, it's this idea of you should wait. I need your help. I need help from you. Therefore, you should wait for me. And it's like, no. You know what I'm saying? No. If you need help from me, you show up on time, you jump through the same stupid ass little hoops we all jump through, and I will be more than happy to help you. I mean, the funny part with this is I sent the guy the nasty little email, and then I get this email back from him, but I need your help, but I need your help so badly. It's like, well, if you needed my help, I respect that. You should have been there on time, right? And that's one thing, again, to realize with things like communication, and when you actually respect the other side in a relationship. And again, I talk about respect a lot because it's something that seems to be failing in the modern society, is this idea of respecting the other side, of thinking about the worldview of the other person. So if you're going to be going to have a meeting with somebody and you're going to be late, it is simple respect simply to communicate with them. Again, like with this person, right? If this person had communicated with me beforehand, I wouldn't have been the happiest. It's not like yippee yippee, but I could have stayed back with that guy that I was talking to for a while. I could have gone and done some other errands. If the person said, I'm going to be 40 minutes late, before they were 40 minutes late, before I had showed up at the cafe, I could have simply said, okay, not happy about this, but thank you for the email. Tell you what, I'm going to do a couple errands. Instead of doing this 2 o'clock, I'll meet you there at 3 o'clock, right? I get to get my errands done. They get to get there late. Again, it's not the best situation. And sometimes, and that's one of the things, sometimes in business, you're not always looking you're looking for the best outcome, not necessarily the perfect outcome. So if this person had communicated with me beforehand and said they're going to be 40 minutes late, again, it's not the perfect outcome, but, you know, before I get there, fine, I'll go off, I'll go to Whole Foods, I'll buy some dog food, I'll do some other stuff. It's not that major of an issue, right? It's where I already get there, I'm already sitting there, I'm already stewing for 20 minutes, I have to communicate to them, they think, I guess I 40, right? And so this just is a real, honest, big thing in the real world. Because I mean, this person is on my crap list now. I don't care. And again, one of the problems that I deal with, especially when you deal with people moving up the socioeconomic spectrum, is this whole idea is, but I need help. But won't you help people like me? It's like, yes, I'm going to help a lot of people like you. I'm going to help the person that I'm meeting today. And I'm going to help the person I'm meeting tomorrow. And I'm going to help the person that I'm meeting the day after. I have 3 appointments so far for Silicon Trailer. I'm going to sit down with them and I'm going to give them the best advice possible. I'm going to help people, but not the people that don't even bother that simple amount of respect, right? And that's one thing that people really get screwed up in their heads, because they see me being snarky about the punctuality and all that, and be like, oh, look, Eli's selfish. Oh, he's just doing whatever, you know, he's just doing in this for himself. It's like, no, I'm helping all these other people. I'm just not going to help this one jackass. So that is something to think about, serious in the world. I mean, because it's a huge issue. You run into it all the time where people just aren't punctual. And again, like I say, for business meetings, punctuality is all the more important, because you should always be punctual. Honestly, I'm one of those people that believes you should always generally be punctual because people have stuff to do. People have plans, especially in the modern world. You may think the plans are stupid, but they've got plans. But in the business world, it's even more important, because you have to remember, again, business decision makers have a lot of different things to do in a day. You know, they may have to discipline or counsel a couple of employees in a day. They may have to talk to investors in a day. They may have to talk to vendors in a day. They may have to sit down with the door closed and simply deal with QuickBooks or deal with these mental tasks. And so when you come in 20 minutes late, it's not simple. Again, this is the important thing to understand. A lot of people get confused with this. It is not simply the insult of being 20 minutes late. Being 20 minutes late is an insult, and that unto itself you should smacked on the nose for. But it's not simply about that. It is that it functionally causes problems with the rest of that person's day. If I have an appointment with you at 11 o'clock and I plan to have lunch at noon, you show up 20 minutes late, I'm expecting to be able to talk to you for an hour. Now we can only talk for 40 minutes. A lot of times, again, it functionally takes time to have a conversation with somebody. So again, if you sit down and you have a meeting with me, you take out all the niceties, take out all the small talk, it functionally takes 30 minutes to an hour. For the most part, if you don't have 30 minutes to talk with me, there's not a lot that I can give you. So if I've given you an hour and you come in 40 minutes late and I only have 20 minutes left, there's no reason for that meeting. I can't present you with enough good information in 20 minutes to make it worthwhile. And again, in business, it's not about the meeting. It's not about the numbers. A lot of people, you know, I'm going to have so many meetings. It's not about having the meetings. It's about the meetings actually mattering. When I sit down with you guys, I want to sit down with you guys for an hour to 2, sometimes 3 with some folks, once. And then I may talk to you again in a year. But really, I don't want to talk to you again any sooner than 6 months, because I'm going to give you all the information I got. And it's going to take you about 6 months to process that and do something with it. So if we sit down and now we only have 20 minutes and then you're like, oh, this has been really good. When can we do this again? It's like, well, I gave you this time. I gave you this hour. You're the one that didn't show up for 40 minutes. You know what I'm saying? So, again, I know with some of these when I do these videos, it sounds like, oh, Eli's just being snarky, Eli's just being mean, Eli's just being pissed off. But with this, one of the reasons I'm pissed off is because it does so much damage to people. Punctuality is just one of those core concepts. If you're not punctual to business meetings, you are literally worthless. Because nothing else matters. If you don't show up on time, so much of business is about timing. If you don't even have the timing down, again, it doesn't matter about the MCSEs or the CCNAs or the degrees or any of that kind of stuff. For the most part, you're just absolutely, who the hell cares? Who wants to deal with you, right? And so that is the issue. So telling you guys, punctuality. Again, it's all the basic little stuff, you know, punctuality, communication, these small little things, they're the ones that are important. I was talking to a higher level up one person, one of these old white men years ago, back when I was first in the IT field. And it was really interesting because I was talking to him, and we're way back when, we're talking about all these basic social skills. And this person worked for a major organization who had a major budget. And one of the things that he said is, really all we're looking for is this base level competency. Communication, interpersonal relations, you know, punctuality, that kind of stuff. Because what he said is, he's like, for the organization that I work for, we have enough money. We can pay to train anybody to do anything. If I look at somebody, what he said is, if I look at somebody and they are just a really good, solid candidate, I can, he actually had the budget to send them to college. He could send them to college. He could send them to a certification program. He could send them to any of this education. If you have a good, solid candidate, you shove them into some kind of boot camp for anywhere between a week to a couple of months, and they can come out and they can be really good members of the team. If they don't have that basic competency, it's worthless. Even if they pay for all the degrees and things themselves, it still doesn't matter, because if you can't communicate with other people, you can't create relationships, if you don't show up on time, if you don't communicate properly, it doesn't matter what other knowledge you have, you can't work within the system. And again, that's a big thing a lot of you guys don't quite get. One of the issues that I see in the technology world is what you guys are sold, what is advertised about our profession, generally is not how it is. And one of the problems is what is advertised about our profession is there's this idea that we are the individual heroes. I will come and fix your problems. Me, 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 me. Right? So unfortunately, a lot of people that try to get in this field are very self-centered. They're very selfish and they're very self-centered because they have the idea that that's the type of people that we are looking for. It's going to be about me. Right? The issue is once you get into the real world of IT and technology, that's not how it works. It's teams. I mean, maybe you're working with other employees, maybe you're working with contractors, maybe you're working with volunteers, maybe you're working with service providers. You know, what their title is in relation to you can be all over the board, but the fact of the matter is you're always working in teams, even if the teams come together for a very short amount of time and then disperse. So like when you're having network issues at a company that you're dealing with, you may have to create a team very quickly out of, you know, the point of contact for the datacom department, the point of contact for the internet service provider, you and the CEO or the manager of that particular location. So you guys may have to come together for a team for an hour and a half. So you get everybody on the phone, you get everybody communicating, everybody knows what's going on, they then fix the problem, everybody says, yep, the problem is actually fixed, and the team goes away. But you don't do anything individually in this field. The idea that you are some kind of superhero and it is all on your shoulders is utter crap. It's just not how it works. Even with me, you know, being a YouTube celebrity. I mean, the business itself, I have a tripod and I have a video camera right here, and I'm sitting in the middle of nowhere talking, you know, talking into this camera. But again, I have to communicate with all these different people. I have to communicate with my sponsors. I have to communicate with these people. When I want to go and talk to somebody in an accelerator, I have to go talk with them. If I want to do the Silicon trailer and actually set them an appointment to talk with you guys, we have to talk, we have to communicate, we have to have punctuality. All of these things work in a system. It is an overall system, and the better you fit into the overall system, the more successful you will be. If you keep strutting around and if you think it's all about me, again, good for you. Please go be a florist. I'm telling you, I tell you guys, I'm one of the only people in IT that will tell so many people, you probably don't want to be in this field, but it really is. If you are just me, you probably don't want to be in this field, because it's really, I know how it's advertised, but that's not how it is. And so a big part of that, a big, huge, massive part of that is simply show up on time. Again, as I say, 15 minutes early. You should always plan to be 15 minutes early, because again, you know that there's going to be issues. If you plug into the GPS, it takes 30 minutes to get from point A to point B. You know there may be an issue with the GPS. You know once you get into the car, you may realize you're almost out of gas. You know once you get to the location of a city, it might be a pain in the ass to do parking. Again, you know, I went to Bisdom, the accelerator, right? Sure, again, 15 minutes early, so I left, and it was fine. It was great, you know, because I was in front of the building that Bisdom was in. There in Cleveland. I was in front of that building 15 minutes early. So, you know, I'm driving by, and it's like, there's the building, and I see the sign for parking, and it's like, hey, great, I'm 15 minutes early. So I drive, I go into the parking lot, and then I tell you, the parking lot that is under Bisdom, that is in Cleveland, is a parking lot that horror movies should be shot in. I have never seen anything as ridiculous as the parking lot. I mean, it is beyond ridiculous. It is this weird labyrinth. You know how cities get built over a century? Think of a parking lot getting built over a century, and there's ups and there's downs, and then I wound up out, and I was literally, so the street level is here. I literally ended up in some open area 3 stories under street level. So I'm sitting there, I get out of my truck, I'm looking up, and like the street's up there, but I'm down here. Okay, I then go over to a door, and there were walkways that were just like to go up, right? And I'm like, okay, fine, I'll just go up, right? I'm down, it's up, so go up. I go to open these, they're locked, and this one's locked, and then I have to walk however many 100 feet down, the next one's locked, and then I have to, and so even though I was in front of the building 15 minutes early, by the time I got through all of that mess, I got there right on time, right? And so that is something, again, like I say, you always know there's going to be an issue. And then, you know, the whole thing is, oh, what if I get there too early, Eli? But realize, people's time is important. If you show up early for an appointment, and I show up early for the same appointment, then we can get started, right? So if communicating with somebody like me is actually valuable to you, so I've slotted an hour. So I've slotted, let's say, from 11 to noon. If we both get there 10 minutes early, you now have an extra 10 minutes to be able to pump me for information or learn extra things, you know, all of that kind of stuff. So there's just no downside to being early. But again, it's one of those issues I just see so many people have. And the biggest problem that I see is a lot of the people, again, socioeconomically depressed. It's just one of those things that they're not taught well enough. Show up on time. And the issue is like I say, you're never going to get from here to here if you don't play by some of these rules. Again, I know this whole thing, I do everything my way. And to a degree, we all do things our own ways, but there's these basic fundamental rules you have to follow. And if you don't follow those basic fundamental rules, simply just nobody's going to deal with you. And the worst part is you're just going to be sitting there crying in your little bedroom in your mama's house, not understanding why nobody cares. And the issue too you have to understand is, again, remember in the business community, all of this stuff is relationships, right? You know, relationship. So you know that guy that I was talking about that I met at the Starbucks. This is somebody I knew from 3 or 4 years ago. So we talked a lot back then. We both liked and respected each other. And then, you know how technology goes. He went that way, I went that way, and then we come back together, right? Again, you have to realize your career, if you're looking for a career in the technology world, your career is going to span decades. When somebody creates an opinion of you now, that will follow you for 10 years. In all seriousness. So that's one thing, again, a lot of people don't realize. There's a difference between jobs and careers. In jobs, when you go work at McDonald's, when you go work at Wendy's, when you go work at a warehouse, right? You're just a crappy ass cog that's thrown in the system. Nobody cares one iota. What you have to realize as a professional, we become a community. I know other YouTubers, I know other IT people, we talk, we communicate. Hey, what do you think about that person? What do you think about that person? Hey, I had this person come to me today, wasn't sure what to do with them, what do you think, right? And people are talking, so what you don't realize is when you pull some stupid ass maneuver right now, I'm gonna remember it. Right? So I'm not going to deal with you for the foreseeable future. Not only am I not going to deal with you for the foreseeable future, I may sit down with my buddy over a beer and go, oh my God, let me tell you about this jackass today. Right? And then I'm talking about you. And so that gets into their head. Oh, I don't want to be dealing with that person. Or the other thing, again, as I've said, that's come up in the real world, especially being a professional, is you get random questions about people you never thought you were going to see again. Again, and this has really happened, and it's one of the reasons, you know, I always tell people, it's like, there's no reason to be mean to me, there's no reason to be snarky to me. I'm literally looking at them like, please don't be snarky to me. Because it is like this random thing. You guys don't understand how often, especially here in the Baltimore area, I would get a business owner or some decision maker to come up and go, hey, you know, I was talking to this person today, and we're thinking about hiring them, what do you think? And I'm like, and then they'll say, and this actually, that was funny. This person was like, you know, this person came in, was looking for a job, seems pretty good. I just want to see what you thought about the person. And I went, and literally, it was about, I probably said for all of about 3 seconds, and the person said, oh, never mind then. I was like, no, but, and he said, no, I know you, Eli, you're honest. You waited 3 seconds to answer that question. No, never mind. And literally, with that person, just so you guys understand, this wasn't a reference call, this wasn't this was simply one business owner asking another person, hey, I know you know this person, what do you think about them? I went, they lost the job because I for 3 seconds. I wasn't even trying to be mean. I wasn't even trying to be snarky. I didn't even have enough time to think about what I thought about the situation before they're like, never mind. And I was like, what do you mean by that? And they said, we know you. I know you, Eli. You have an opinion about everything, and you're fully willing to say your opinion. So if you waited that long to give your viewpoint, that means you're trying to be polite, and I'm not going to hire somebody because you're trying to be polite. So I was just like, oh, wow. But that is the real world. I tell you, you guys don't realize it, but that is really, 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 really the truth. So with that, I guess we'll call that an end to this particular video. Again, like I say, I gotta go off and do the Silicon trailer thing. That is going very well, hopefully. We will see. We'll see how it goes tonight. And I do have to say too, that's one thing, when we talk about basic business skills, when we talk about things like communication and all this, I did make a point on Instagram, and there's a lot of people hate to hear this, especially within the Baltimore area, but I feel that it's the truth, is that I do find it interesting and poignant in a way that the first person to be that late, or even late at all, for one of these Silicon trailers is in Baltimore. So I've done this now in Denver, and everybody showed up early. I did this in Cleveland, showed up early. Did this in Rhinebeck. 2 people drove over 2.5 hours. They were there early, plus the other meeting. Every place I've done this, every time I've done this so far, it has gone off without a hitch. From Denver all the way back here. And it is just an interesting thing to point out. The first place that I have a problem is Baltimore City. And one of the points that I would make to you guys, again, one of the things, just think about, is there's a lot of pride of place. You know, people that say, I'm from Baltimore, I'm from Detroit, I'm from wherever. One of the things that you may want to think about is there are cities that are doing very well. Seattle and Portland and San Francisco and Denver and Austin. And there are cities that are not doing very well. Baltimore, Cleveland, Detroit, St. Louis. One of the things that you may want to think about, just keep in your head, is one of the reasons that they're doing so poorly is because the culture of that city does not fit in well with the business culture. Again, that's one of the issues that I see with Baltimore so much, is that so much of the fundamental culture isn't a business culture, right? It's just, you know, people are dealing with what people are dealing with. But when it comes to actually just sitting down and getting business done, so much of that basic socialization just isn't there. And so that's something to be thinking about with your career, is if you're in a place like Baltimore, or Cleveland, or Detroit, or any of those things, and you're pretty good at what you're doing, you know, you're technical, is that the place that you think that you're really going to be successful? And the other thing to think about is there's something in sociology called the association theory. So the association theory states that essentially you model your behavior based off of the other people around you. Right? So if you take a kid and you throw them into a prep school environment, more or less they become prep schooly. If you take the same kid and you throw them into a ghetto gang environment, they become gangy. Now, there are degrees to this, obviously, but more or less that you conform to the environment that you're in. And so something to be thinking about. And this, again, this is one of the sad things I see with Baltimore. And it's one of the sad things, but I don't know what the hell to do about it. As I tell you guys, a lot of decision makers know what the problems are, and they sit down and they talk, but they just don't know what the hell the solution is. And one of the problems that I see, like in the Baltimore environment, is the socialization of people is just so piss poor from a business standpoint. When you go home and you're being taught by your parents, when you're being taught by the community around you, that the way to interact is a way that is basically reprehensible in the business world, that isn't going to help you out. So I know a lot of people on here, you know, a lot of, like I say, lower class folks that may be watching this. It may be really, really scary. But one of the best things you might do for your career is move to Portland, or move to Seattle, or move to a city that's doing really well and associate with the people doing well, because you model your behavior based off the people that you're around. So if you're in the ghetto and the people that you know in the ghetto aren't doing very well, by your estimate, not what I'm saying, again, don't have me decide, you decide how the people around you are doing. But you look around and the people that you're around are not successful by your own terms, those are probably not the people that you want to be hanging around with, because you're modeling your behavior based on how they interact with the world. And if you don't think they're successful, then that means how they interact with the world is not successful. You get what I'm saying there? So yeah, that's my thought. That's my thought. But I do feel bad. And that's the thing too, like a lot of people don't realize, like with this jackass yesterday. I mean, I feel bad for the jackass. I really do. I'm like, in my heart of hearts, I feel bad for the jackass. But it doesn't mean that I can deal with the jackass. And the other issue that you have to realize, like with some of this stuff, is when you're dealing with people, especially like if you're dealing with somebody like me, is that there are simple rules that we have to follow, decision makers, people theoretically in power have to follow. And one of the things is we can't take crap. You might be like, what do you mean by that? You can't take crap, Eli. Well, one of the issues, like with this whole punctuality thing, right, is I'm meeting a lot of you guys. I'm meeting a lot of you guys at this point when I'm going to these locations, especially if around the city. I mean, a lot of people want to meet me. So the problem is I can't allow you guys to imagine that not being punctual is acceptable, right? So if this guy is 40 minutes late, and then he tells somebody else he was 40 minutes late, so they think they can be 40 minutes late. The problem is the entire system falls in on itself, especially if I'm going to be meeting people. I've got crap to do in a day, right? I've got a wife, and I want to do hiking, and I want to deal with a corgi, and I want to deal with stuff that I want to deal with. So if people start not being punctual to these things, it creates this cascade effect. Then that makes the entire project infeasible, right? If everybody decides they're going to be late, then it's going to be infeasible. So one of the issues that you also run into, and this is one of the hard parts about being a decision maker in the real world, is what will you tolerate? And so for me, I simply do not feel that I can tolerate you guys or folks being that non-punctual. And so if you are that non-punctual, there will not be another meeting. There will not be flexibility. because I can't allow it to be seen that this is acceptable behavior. Because if other people start doing it, it means the entire project then becomes infeasible and it all falls in on itself. And so again, these are the types of little things a lot of people don't realize, but again, it's how the real world works. How the real world works. Real world ain't nice. But again, if you understand the systems, it's easy. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, that's what, like, I lose my mind, because again, all the people I talk to are business decision makers. I mean, that's who my cohort is. When I sit down and talk to people, it's not even necessarily IT people anymore. It's business people. And some of the business people run waste management companies, and some of the business people run development shops, and other business people do other things. I sit down and I talk with business people, and I am telling you, every single business person I talk to, the issue is not how fast their employees can configure Active Directory. It's, do they show up on time? You know, when they're going to be taking a sick day, how far before the day starts do they call? Do they communicate properly? All of this basic, I am telling you, when I sit down and I talk with business people, that is the stuff that they actually care about, and that is the stuff that they're losing their minds on, because it is so simple. It's so simple, it seems so common sense, and yet so many people are like, yeah, whatever. I'll be 20 minutes. Being 20 minutes late, that's not gonna be, they're not gonna care if I'm 20 minutes late. Yeah, they will. Yes. So with that, we'll call it a day. I will see you guys in the next one of these videos.